what most people seem to not understand is that you're looking at what's going on, but the most important aspect of this is this. In about 35 days, there's going to be a world war. There's going to be a world war. These people can feel their demise. And they're going to do everything in the world to hold on to it. Even when they sound like they're being or justifying Iran's stance and other people's stances. It's not real. All they want is control and power. It's what you need to understand. In a couple of days or a couple of weeks, Russia and China is going to get involved and a world war is going to start.
Западных элитах очень сильно желание заморозить существующее положение, несправедливое положение вещей в международных делах. Они привыкли столетиями набивать брюхо человеческой плотью, а карманы деньгами. Но они должны понять, что бал вампиров заканчивается.
They wanted the world to sympathize with its bastards and childless. Back in the day, we found it hard to defend the truth in the information space and to defend a true picture of the events, since outside of the country we did not have a strong voice. I will emphasize that the sovereignty of Russia that we have been fighting for and continue to fight for and shall always fight for relies upon our ability to share with the people on the planet an objective picture and impartial information.
Since no one else won't say this, I'm going to say this. Okay? And I'm going to attempt to say it in a way that TikTok don't kick me off. Nobody wants to be led by Caucasian people anymore. The Iranian people are not going to relinquish control over this war to go back to the same rule of law that is really not a rule of law, but it's a law that is flexible and amended and full of circular reasoning. Circular reasoning is obviously it is what it is, but it's used as a tool to justify whatever Western people want to do. It starts with their religion, to their ideology, to their law. Everything is imbued with circular reasoning. Circular reasoning basically makes anything that is true false. So this is what's going on in these Iranian people's heads. In order to stop this war, there needs to be absolute rule. In other words, the Americans need to stop attacking people when they want to. They're going to make the world address that. You can talk about UN law. They don't respect that, just like Americans, just like Israel don't respect it. Israel is going to have to pay Iran, and America is going to have to pay Iran. You started a war, and anything that happened in it is war. The Iranian people did the right thing. If you have assets in other people's countries that can harm us, I'm going to destroy it. Stop asking why. They did exactly what I do. I've said for years, look, I'm somebody that follows the law, but I used to say all the time, if you harm my family, all bets are off. I don't give a fuck about the law. Like, seriously. Okay? That's all game. It's easy for me to live in an environment where everybody's getting along and you don't fuck with me. But when you do fuck with me, I don't care nothing about this bullshit law, because it bends whichever way they want to bend it. And so those of you who are hoping that I don't care who come together, I'm telling you, when I hear the tone of the movement and conversation of the Iranian people, The leadership, they're basically saying we don't give a damn about the IMF, we don't give a damn about the UN rule and law, because that was all created by Europeans, and it only benefits Europeans. That's why you got them. They can't build a nuclear weapon, but America is the biggest terrorist in the world. I don't get it. So they're going to be able to, every country should be able to do whatever the fuck they want to do. And then we jump on them when they do something out of, but in reality, we started this war with, not only now, but we started the war in the beginning. That's why the Iranians are mad at us. See, we only hear one side of the story over here. But again, that's circular reason. I'm telling you, there's not going to be a time, I hear it in these people's voices, we're not going to stop and just stop and then sit in a room where we talk about it and then all of the rule and law go away when it relates to any country that is not dark-skinned. That's what they're saying. I'm telling you, that's what they're saying. So people talking, oh, it's war, day war 17. They did the same thing in the Afghan war for a little while until they stopped. And we didn't win that one either. But this one is going to have a detrimental, and like the leader of Iran said, y'all think Donald Trump can't come to us and just say, okay, we're going to stop and pull away. No. They've already said that's not going to happen. In other words, a country that is not dark-skinned is going to have to take responsibility for what they've done. Simple as that. And taking over don't mean come in and taking over our country. We don't need you to rebuild our country. We need the money. You understand what I'm saying? These people are not playing. They want they want everything to be above board. And they're not going in there because if you get in that room where they talk, well, this, that, and the other about, they will make you think as if you did something wrong or everybody did something wrong here. No, we didn't. We were attacked. Whatever we had to do, we were going to do it. What they did is war. If you have a country with assets where people can land no, let's blow that shit up. I would have done the same thing. So they're not going for that, I'm telling y'all. So though you think, no, I'm telling you, this war going to last. Donald Trump is breaking right now. I can see all his arrogance is sucked out of him. He don't know what to do. He has no idea what to do. That arrogant air about himself, and Pete Hegseth looked like an idiot. He is standing up there and not saying anything, reading from a... Man, it looked bad, man. But I am so happy.
President Trump has not ruled out boots on the ground in Iran. Are you afraid of a U.S. invasion in your country?
No, we are waiting for them.
You are waiting for the U.S. military to invade the ground troops?
Yes, because we are confident that we can confront them, and that would be a big disaster for them.
So you're saying that Iran is ready and willing to take on the U.S. military if there were to be ground troops?
Well, we were ready for this war even more than the previous war. So you can see, the quality of our missiles, how much they are upgraded after the last war, because we learned lots of lessons. And we are prepared for any other eventuality, even, a ground invasion. So our soldiers are prepared for any scenario. When I said that we are waiting for them, it didn't mean that we are waiting for continuation of the war. No, but we have prepared ourselves to confront with any scenario, with any eventuality, any possibility, and we know that we can handle that.
Okay, this is incredibly bad. So it's 4:10 in the morning Eastern Standard Time. Trump posted this on Truth Social a few hours ago. He said Israel, out of anger for what has taken place in the Middle East, has violently lashed out against a major facility known as South Pars gas field in Iran. That gas field is connected to Qatar's LNG gas field, which is a natural gas facility. He in this is essentially saying that the US did not know about this, which I don't know. That's kind of irrelevant at this point. He goes on to threaten Iran, basically saying if you bomb something again, we're going to bomb your entire gas field. Qatar's LNG gas field is one of the most important gas export hubs in the world. Oil prices jumped, skyrocketed at this, and it could take Qatar months to fix whatever thing was damaged. For some perspective, this Qatar's energy, this natural gas facility, handles 20% of global natural gas supply globally. So Europe and Asia are gonna immediately feel this hit if it is as big as it seems. Inflation is going to skyrocket if Qatar can't immediately fix this, which the odds are that they cannot. And this means that this conflict has hit a new level that we have not seen yet in this war in Iran. Trump threatened Iran and said that if you bomb something else, we're going to destroy your gas field, which in return, Iran will likely destroy Qatar's gas field. This will send gas prices globally up. It will skyrocket inflation just in general. Trump is also essentially in that thing that he put on Truth Social. He's denying accountability. He's saying that the US had no idea this was happening, which in and of itself is dangerous, because if this is a war that's allegedly being fought with Israel and the United States, the fact that the US was not informed of this, he's sending mixed signals. So our allies globally are not going to know what the truth is. And frankly, I don't think he knows what the truth is. This is very bad. And I think that this situation is probably the closest we've come so far to an all-out catastrophe.
So 20% of the world's LNG is now gone, and that is the fuel for power plants across Europe and Asia and India. This affects electricity, heating, even gasoline prices. A large portion of this gas is going to take 3 to 5 years to come back online, as per Qatar this morning. That means this coming winter, places like France, Italy, and the UK likely to be rationing electricity. Also, South Korea. And most all of the countries in Europe and Asia, if they can get electricity, are likely to be paying 3 to 4 times more for it. This is being downplayed like COVID. I always wanted to downplay it. I didn't want to cause panic. The words of Donald Trump. That's happening right now. In addition, that strike completely wipes away any release of ours from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Because when that much natural gas comes offline, a lot of that is replaced in power plants as they switch to oil. So oil demand just rose drastically. This is not good, folks. This is not good. Thanks.
In the coming days, we may unsanction the Iranian oil that's on the water. It's about 140 million barrels. So depending on how you count it, that's 10 days to 2 weeks of supply that the Iranians had been pushing out. That would have all gone to China. In essence, we will be using the Iranian barrels against the Iranians to keep the price down for the next...
Oh, glorious. Fucking glorious. We're going to release the Iranian sanctions so that we actually hurt the Iranians is a fantastic gambit. Masterful gambit, sir. Thank you so much. Hey, you know what also helps Iran? The fact that their oil tankers are the only ones that can cross through the Strait of Hormuz right now, as the price of the oil barrel is also skyrocketed. You know who this helps? Russia. You know who this helps? Iran. Ironically enough, now that the Strait of Hormuz is closed effectively and the price of fucking crude has gone up, every single barrel that Iran is capable of selling to the rest of the world is even more expensive. And therefore, they're making even more money. 5D chess here. For the record, we should have never been fucking sanctioning the shit out of Iran to begin with and like starving its economy. This fucking dipshit literally celebrated that. Openly said that the reason why there is discontent in Iran right now, the reason why there are mass protests in Iran right now is because we effectively starved out their economy. We destroyed their regular, ordinary people's normal existence in the country. He said it, remember. And now, forcibly, Iran is recovering those lost assets, the economic damage, piece by piece.
5% of the world's global natural gas supply will be off for at least the next couple years. This matters because nobody has natural gas reserves, and this infrastructure is gone. The South Pars natural gas field has been hit by the United States, and Iran and Qatar both share it. Qatar Energy, which is a top 5 natural gas company in the world, will not have about 17% of its capacity. This will cause about 13 million tons of natural gas every year to be removed from supply until this facility is rebuilt. And the Ras Laffan facility was hit 2 times. You have that and the South Pars oil field. Americans don't seem to give a fuck about innocent people, so the only way to appeal to them is to appeal to their wallet. You think your heating bill was bad this year? How about the next 2 to 4 years when we have this permanent supply drop that's not going to come back really quickly? I guess in that way it's not permanent, but you get what I'm saying. It is long term. We've talked a lot about oil prices, but the US is in no way insulated from natural gas price increases. A lot of people use it to cook and heat their homes. I'm going to sign off by telling you this. Iran is winning, and for the good of the world, it needs to. In the span of the last 24 hours, they hit global natural gas supply in response to American aggression. They also, just as I'm making this, hit an F-35. You know, the stealth jet that we've put unbelievable trillions of dollars into. They embarrassed an F-35. And they've also hit the blue and white countries' refineries with missiles. This is the United States paying the price for an idiotic war of aggression.
Only 20 days into the Iran war, the world is already at the verge of total collapse. In Thailand, the Prime Minister has ordered civil servants to conserve energy by suspending overseas trips and using stairs instead of elevators. Vietnam has only energy reserves for up to 20 days, so it encourages employees to work from home. Gas stations in Hanoi are extremely crowded, with people queuing to buy petrol, and some are not even allowed to fill their tanks completely. Bangladesh relies on imports for 95% of their energy needs, so it has now shut down all universities across the country starting Monday. The most extreme case is India, where crematoriums are being forced to switch to wood because there is not enough gas to cremate bodies. What we are seeing essentially is an early sign of the world splitting into 2 types. One group have diversified its energy and achieved energy independence, whereas the other remains dependent on energy imports, lacking the ability to break free from fossil fuel, and eventually left vulnerable in global disruptions.
There was a report last night that the Pentagon asked the White House for $200 billion for Iran war supplemental. Can you confirm this, and can you explain why a package this large is necessary?
As far as $200 billion, I think that number could move, obviously. It takes money to kill bad guys. So we're going back to Congress and our folks there to ensure that we're properly funded for what's been done, for what we may have to do in the future, ensure that our ammunition is, everything's refilled, and not just refilled, but above and beyond. And an investment like this is meant to say, hey, we'll replace anything that was spent. Ultimately, we think this should be, these munitions are better spent in our own interests at this point. And this kind of funding bill is going to ensure that we're properly funded going forward. We'll take one more.
Why America is where it is right now? Greed. As simple as that. Specific greed of one group of people and their ability to infect other cultures with their insatiable greed. It's crazy. And I don't care how you look at it, because I've heard some of the most ridiculous analysis of why wealthy people, there's always an excuse. And I'll give you the main excuse, which is an excuse, but it's an explanation, is they don't have it. They don't have it. And you probably never heard anybody say this. So if you want to hear, why, I'm going to tell you why. They don't have it. See, when money isn't real, I laid this concept out several years ago, probably 4 years ago. Money isn't real. And people were fascinated that I said it because they understood it from some aspect. But let me explain this to you. First of all, there's nobody that's super wealthy that wasn't a plan. You guys, you're late finding it out too, but you found it out. I used to say it all the time. People who are billionaires are plans. And I learned this in my young 20s when I would listen to rich people's stories. And I would always leave. Because I spent a lot of time in Miami. And at the time, almost every wealthy person in the world passed through Miami. And I was in a situation where I could meet them. I was at a mid-level situation, a mid-level executive in hospitality, so people saw me, okay? And I had a bit of sophistication on me as a kid. So they would tell me these stories, and I think, that's bullshit. I would leave all the time. So if you wonder where Mr. Reed get his concept from, obviously I went to the school of the Holy Spirit, and some other schools. But at the same time, I have the ability to just recognize stuff. So let me explain this to you. Elon Musk isn't worth $1 trillion. He's worth the evaluation that his company laid out to the government and his investors last year. That's all he's worth. And that evaluation is based on revenue. That's why I tell you guys all the time, if you stop concerning yourself with profit and concern yourself with growing your business, you'll be a lot better off. Because that's the only way you're addressing the real issue. The real issue is that you don't have enough revenue. Let me explain it to you this way. Amazon, people talk about the failures of Amazon. Oh, they didn't make any money for 25 years. Dummy, they were never trying to make money. All they were ever trying to do is build. They wanted control of a sector. Now they got it. When people build companies like that, they want control. If you got control, you got money because you have the revenue. You have the leverage. You can inflate it, deflate it, whatever you want to do. Okay? If right now, every person that owned a Tesla stopped driving it, Elon Musk stock would go down to almost nothing. Not even turning it in or stop buying them, just stop driving. Why? Because just like I just told you a moment ago, all that stuff is connected. If you go, I don't care if you're going to electric, I don't care if you're going to gas, whatever. All that stuff is what you call regulated, which means there's an agreement between all these groups. Now, how can you grow a company out of the dirt and it automatically have all these regulations? You can't. All of these people are grown to be billionaires. It's a plan. I've been telling y'all that forever. You keep believing people smarter than you, okay. That's why the head of the Fed in 2010 was crying, trying to figure out how he gonna balance the budget. And then when Obama came in there, Obama became the scapegoat to write all these companies checks. So in all these companies, all these people are supposed to be smarter than you. They graduated from Harvard, Yale, University of Pennsylvania, Wharton, all these schools, Dartmouth, and they couldn't come up with money. But they tell you to make money. You better make some money. You don't make money. You align yourself with the right people in a plan. And you create within your own sphere an institutional concept of trust, not between yourselves, but trust in the institutions you build. So you put trust mechanisms in the institutions. Okay? Nobody is smarter than you. I don't care if you grew up in the hood. I don't care if you. All it takes is you, first of all, cultivating. I hope you got a relationship with God, but also doing your own studying, your own research, and studying strategically. Studying not just to grasp over and to comprehend like you taking a test, but to actually study to learn. These guys aren't what you think they are. So I'm sitting here watching this. Where did this provocation come from? I'm sitting here watching this guy, and it's the guy that does all these, these interviews, these big time people. I forget his name. I used to watch him all the time. I used to watch hundreds of his shows, and he's talking about the separation between the wealthy and the poor and the wealthy needs to change, because if it doesn't, but this is what wealthy people always say, but you can't take the money from the wealthy. If you do that, yeah, you can. That's really the only, I'm telling you guys, that's really the only solution. But what they're saying is they're not going to give it away. And I'm telling you, it's not real. All it takes is a collective mutual understanding of what to do and how to move. And I guarantee they'll do what you want them to do. All you got to do is start boycotting. That's all you got to do. American money ain't real. That's the first thing about it. Billionaires in other countries are legitimate billionaires. Their money is tied directly to something. American money ain't tied to nothing. Even Tesla's nothing. All you got to do is stop driving them cars. All you got to do is leave them on the lot and watch how his net worth drops, because that money ain't real. It's in stock. It's in stock. Then you'll see how smart somebody is. A lot of y'all was saying Trump was a genius not long ago. Y'all don't see how humble Trump is now sitting in that chair? He don't know what he gonna do. That war is weighing on his motherfucking ass like crazy.
Bill Gates? Mark Zuckerberg? Really strange. This 19-year-old guy drops out from Harvard and founds Facebook, okay? And now he's a billionaire. How does that happen, guys? Well, it must be the American dream. Oh, ChatGPT, guys. Really strange. If you have a dream and you just follow it, you can become a billionaire in America. Yeah. It's all just a scam, right? Google, it's all just a scam, okay? What you need to understand about these companies is they were all founded with US military technology that is public, okay? The internet, it's a US military technology. Google, these search engines, it's all US military technology. And they were given to these guys for free. Why would they do that? Okay, again, if you think that we're ruled by secret societies, and it's really secret societies that control the world, and they want this technology out there to better surveil people, it makes a lot more sense, right? Because if the Pentagon said, hey, with this free computer that you can use, you'd be like, I'm not gonna use this computer because you'll spy on me, right? But if Mark Zuckerberg says, hey, free Facebook, guys, want to use it? You're like, yeah, sure, Facebook, yeah. He's a dork from Harvard. Of course he can be trusted, right?
America is backed by oil and not gold. If you guys did not know, America's dollar is backed by oil and not gold, so therefore it is called the petrodollar. And a lot of countries are moving away from the petrodollar and are not wanting to be a part of this rigged system anymore.
Now Saudi Arabia is no longer selling using U.S. dollars, for their petrol. The U.S. dollar is done now. We've just lost in the 12 months. We've lost 9% of our purchasing power. So if you had $100,000 last year, you only have $91,000 now, and it's steadily declining. 25 countries have jumped onto the BRICS. Apart from those other 5 countries, we've got 39% of our world of the finances now no longer being dependent. Only 51% of the world is still using U.S. dollars. And as the dollar crashes, because Trump has a plan, and his plan is if you weaken the dollar, then you can bring manufacturing jobs back over here. But that doesn't work with the tariffs that are being hit outside the world.
The rules and incentives, now we can play the game. And this game is called the global economy. All right? So when China trades with the United States, when you go off to Europe on vacation, you're all participating in a game created by the financial order, okay? And the purpose of this this global economy is to have everyone play as much as possible so that wealth can be transferred from the world to the United States, the powers that be, okay? And they do this through two mechanisms. The first is the US dollar. So every time you use the US dollar, you're actually paying a tax to America because America has the power to print as much US dollars as it wants, okay? And the second way that it does this is through something called a price hierarchy, okay? A price hierarchy. So the global economy is divided into tiers, okay? So resources are considered the cheapest, even though in reality it should be the most expensive, right? Because resources are limited, they're finite. Above resources, of course, is manufacturing. And above manufacturing is knowledge economy. And then the highest is finance, okay? Basically the game.
President Trump has had enough of U.S. allies backing away from supporting the war with Iran.
I think NATO's making a very foolish mistake. And I've long said that, I wonder whether or not NATO would ever be there for us. So this was a great test, because we don't need them, but they should have been there.
That rather tempered public response stands in contrast to an earlier post from the president where he stated in all caps, "We do not need the help of anyone," as well as a readout from Senator Lindsey Graham, who spoke with Trump directly about the issue. Graham posted to X and said of the president, quote, "I have never heard him so angry in my life. I share that anger given what's at stake." With allies refusing support and the key Strait of Hormuz remaining closed, the last thing the president needed was a defection from within. But that is exactly what he got. I am talking about the director of the National Counterterrorism Center, Joe Kent, who stepped down from his post yesterday. He took to X to explain, writing in part, quote, "I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby." The Post's chief Washington correspondent Stephen Nelson dug into the resignation and the political impact it's having.
Kent is the highest profile resignation to date in protest of the Iran war. Kent is a notable figure in the anti-interventionist camp among President Trump's supporters. He resigned with a lengthy letter saying that President Trump had been duped into the Iran war by Israel and certain unnamed media figures. His resignation has provoked divided opinion. People who are critical of him in the White House say that he has spouted a bunch of lies on his way out the door, where his supporters say that this was something that he struggled with and was a clearly difficult and principled decision. Now, this, of course, does political damage to President Trump, who thus far has been able to keep together his diverse coalition of supporters throughout this major conflict. President Trump has, of course, said that he expects the war only to last a matter of weeks, but oil prices are rising and the war continues. Vice President J.D. Vance, who sources say did in fact he was fond of Kent, he said yesterday that he would encourage people who are like him, skeptical of foreign wars, to trust in President Trump and know that he is, in Vance's words, smarter than his predecessors and will not repeat the mistakes of the past.
Why didn't you tell U.S. allies in Europe and Asia, like Japan, about the war before attacking Iran? So we are very confused about we Japanese citizens.
Well, one thing, you don't want to signal too much. When we go in, we went in very hard, and we didn't tell anybody about it because we wanted surprise. Who knows better about surprise than Japan? Okay? Why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor? Okay? Right? He's asking me, do you believe in surprise? I think much more so than us. And we had to surprise him, and we did. And because of that surprise, we knocked out, the first 2 days, we probably knocked out 50% of what we, and much more than we anticipated doing. So if I go and tell everybody about it, there's no longer a surprise, right?
Why? The thing that you need to understand is this, okay? What is happening was going to happen either way. It is just a natural progression of economics, power, strength, strategy. But it wouldn't happen so fast if the communities in America who want to maintain Western control wouldn't have been so overwhelmed with the presence of Donald Trump and his control over predominantly white America. And that's why the country is in the place that it's in right now. How is it moving forward faster? It's moving forward faster because this insatiable love for this control of Israel in the United States and selling all this stuff, you know, Christ coming back and all this other shit. They're doing all the old methodologies, and y'all don't even, some people still don't see them, but they're not working. And the fact that you still hover in that shit is the only thing that keeps any control over people. Now, if you watch what other countries do, which is what I'm trying to explain, Trump is asking for people to engage in this war with him, and they're saying no. Why? Because they're tired of the thing that you aren't. I'm not going to say it, but it's two words, and one begins with white. They are tired of control over the world. So what they're doing is they're sitting back and they're allowing this great power that is the United States, which is essentially inflation and a bunch of guns, to reap what is sown. You weren't. Remember, we don't believe, well, Christians don't believe in justice and stuff like that. You just believe whatever happens, happens. Oh, it's God. So the world is doing it for you. So what is that going to do? That's going to speed up China's control over the world, which is what we wanted. Because the faster they're in control, the faster that Africa gains control or strength or rises. So all the opportunities you see existing right now, it's going to be a lot more abundant soon. But that's what's going on. Nobody's going to enter a war to help America. For what? And Trump, it's crazy. It's like somebody who has, fucked off their last person. He's looking around. He's looking so weak. Because your mode is to intimidate everybody. Oh, NATO, you're not going to help us. You're going to regret it. Oh, that is so adolescent. But that's America. That's always been America. I am not trying to save white supremacy, nor am I trying to save the United States. I want it all to fall apart. I do. I'm going to be fine. I've always been fine. But the thing about it, the perception in the world toward black people is what I want to change. And the only way it's going to change is these empires fall. We're not going to fall because we were never standing because of this shit. So that's what's really going on.
He's threatening to withhold life-saving HIV medication from Zambia if they don't allow the U.S. to steal their minerals. And the sad part is this is the norm. The guy in the White House continues to go over Africa's precious resources. Let's get into it. So right now, the U.S. government is using health aid as a weapon to steal from Africa. In Zambia, more than 1 million people depend on an American HIV medication just to stay alive. But according to a leaked government memo, this administration is thinking about cutting off that aid unless Zambia agrees to give the U.S. more access access to its valuable minerals. Let's just really take a second to think about this. The US is literally holding life-saving medicine hostage in an attempt to steal Africa's resources. And this isn't some accident or misunderstanding. The memo actually says the US needs to show it's willing to publicly take support away from these nations in order to get this done. And this is happening to way more other countries too. The US is trying to force at least 7 other African nations to sign these agreements. Zimbabwe actually walked away from a $350 million health funding deal because the deal was so one-sided. The US wanted access to their private health data and even samples of certain viruses to develop blockbuster drugs. And if US drug companies use those viral samples to create new vaccines or treatments, Zimbabwe wouldn't get any special access to them. They'd have to pay full price like everybody else. So basically, the US gets their raw materials for scientific discovery, and African countries get nothing in return. For years, the US has tried to steal as much as they can from African nations. They've pillaged and plundered and overthrown democratically elected leaders. Also, the pillaging and plundering can continue. So now that they are threatening to withhold life-saving medication to help further their pillaging and plundering, understand that this is just business as usual.
All of America's allies are allowing them to fall. They can't beat Iran, and they try. If they try to, you guys don't understand it. If they try to launch a nuclear warhead, first of all, Israel's not going to launch anything. Okay, they're not, because if they do, Russia's going to launch one at them, and Israel's as big as my finger. Okay. All they are destabilizers like they're supposed to be, but they're destabilizers for the United States. And see, you guys got to understand, everybody knows that, because just because you see them playing the game, don't think they don't know it. Just like Ukraine, you're trying to figure out, why is there a war in Ukraine? There's a war in Ukraine because they're America's proxies in that region. And Russia is going to control their region. Just like Taiwan is their proxy, is America's proxy in Asia. I mean, you guys don't know this? And that's why they want all this shit to be over.
Israel is a true friend. It is our greatest ally in the region. And if Israel is attacked, America will stand with Israel. As long as I'm President of the United States, Iran will not get a nuclear weapon. I made that clear when I came into office. To get Iran to recognize it needs to give up its nuclear program and abide by the UN resolutions and we are going to continue to keep the pressure on to make sure that they do not get a nuclear weapon. That's in America's national interest, and that will be the case so long as.
And we're doing very well on the war front, to put it mildly, I would say. Somebody said, on a scale of 10, where would you rate it? I said about a 15. And we're going to continue to do well. We have the greatest military in the world by far. And that was a tremendous threat to us for many years. 47 years they've been killing our people and killing people from all over the world. And I think we have great support. And I think if we didn't do it first, they would have done it to Israel and give us a shot if that was possible. And if we didn't terminate the worst deal, one of the worst deals ever made, the Obama nuclear deal, I call it the Obama nuclear deal, where he gave everything to Iran, including a nuclear weapon. It was a road to a nuclear weapon. Bad things would have happened 4 years ago, because they would have had a weapon 4 years ago if I didn't terminate.
Further rocket attacks were reported against Nahariya and a military. Fucking hell. Fuck. Wait.
That was a conversation I was listening to last night. This pastor was talking to his church. Here's the thing about it. The guy was talking about Charlie Kirk. He was talking about Candace Owens. He was talking about Tucker Carlson. Um, and he was basically on this support Israel rant. And the guy literally glossed over and said, even though Israel is a bad actor, they're still God's chosen people. And if you don't follow them, you're going to hell. And I'm sitting here, if anybody is listening to that, if anybody, first of all, I'm going to say this. If any of you believe God is like that, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. I know that there is a God. I talk to him every morning. I talk to him at least 2 or 3 times a day. And he responds, not with words, but with action. And his actions align with his integrity. That's all I'm going to say. I believe a lot of you are serving the devil and you don't know it because you believe the devil. Because I don't understand how you believe you're serving God when the devil controls everything you do. And more importantly, the residuals of what's being done is demonic. The devil also controls everything. I don't understand how you guys don't see that contradiction. But let's get past that. I'm going to post this guy. I think I've already posted his little bald head guy as a preacher. Everybody's got on this hill country dress like you're from Virginia kind of shit. And he's talking about all this stuff. And I'm like, okay. See, that's the lock-in of circular reasoning. And those you don't know what circular reasoning is, it's a fallacy. Essentially, let me make this simple. It's a lie integrated into a algorithm. That's all religion really is an algorithm. But it's an algorithm that can be changed, adjusted, amended. And so when you look at this, I don't understand how you guys, I don't understand how you can be a Christian. I don't get it. I understand how you can serve God. I do. I really do. I understand how you can even use aspects of the Bible. But I don't see how you can be a Christian. Because here's the thing about it. If you guys really believe what you say you believe, then you'd be arguing with even the country you live in about what they're doing. You're not. There's no protests about what's going on, what's being done. You guys are just going to church, sitting in there, never arguing or disputing anything, any of that. Just existing in it. And I don't understand it. I don't understand it. In my small way, I dispute it because you guys know exactly what I think. You know exactly what I think. I am not a Christian. I am not a Christian at all because I've seen too much that Christians have done. Am I a God lover? I'm consumed with love for God. Absolutely. And I serve God because of his actions, not because of some words written. If you're not serving God because of what actions he performed in your life, then you're not serving God. And what's crazy is people who are always want you to believe in circular reasoning are always reverting back to that book or believe there's nothing outside of that book, which is absolutely ridiculous. Why are all these other words and books written? There's no truth in them. We don't know these people that wrote these books. And none of them, all of them have to be American or British. I don't know any Hebrew named Mark, Matthew. I don't know any of these people. And y'all never question that? The thing that's most important is that this negates you from really serving God outside of the religious belief system. I don't understand that. Don't you want to know God for himself and not know what people say about God? When you're given a little truth and a lot of lies, it can be very dangerous. And a lot of you are in danger, you don't understand it. You don't understand, a lot of us don't understand how a lot of our Caucasian acquaintances and friends can subsidize themselves through all this stuff. How they can do all the stuff they do and not be guilty. That's because they choose, literally, I've been listening to this argument, they choose whether they can be guilty or not. So what you guys call conviction, they don't even understand. You can listen to this in the actions and the communication that the Catholic Church gave people all over almost 100 years ago. That's why they're not guilty. Because they feel that guilt is something you can cut on and cut off. It is not based on the recompense personally of your own actions. Isn't that fucking crazy? It makes me understand how some people do not subject themselves to their actions.
Does Israel want us out of the Middle East?
Eventually.
Why?
They want to be a superpower all on their own. Netanyahu came out, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, and said, we want to wean ourselves away from American support.
I saw that too.
2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, again, within the last 6 weeks, he was doing a speech. It's in Hebrew, but it is translated, where he said, we will be the superpower in the Middle East. And that means not using us. That means on their own.
Are they in talks with China?
No idea. No idea.
There's a lot of speculation that that's going to be their new best friend.
I heard something about a year ago about them talking to China. And I remember at the time thinking to myself, well, they've used us up. Let's go to the next one and see what we can get from them.
That's exactly what crossed my mind too.
Yeah.
And they had mentioned, they had mentioned that they will help China with their tech. I don't know if they need help with their tech.
Israel's is unabashedly and unashamed opportunists. Whoever's going to help them is their friend. Whoever isn't helping them is their enemy. It's that easy. And right now, we're the host and Israel's the parasite living off of us. And eventually it'll eat you up until you're dead, and then it'll move on to another host. That's a sad comment to make, but that's,
it seems
if
like
you just follow it, if you just look at what's happening, that is what works. That's the answer that works.
Have you seen this clip of Netanyahu talking about Rome?
I saw part of that.
Where he says, we won't lose this time. And a lot of speculation is saying that the United States is the new Rome.
We're Rome, yeah. So historically, there's some... there's also some religious texts and whatnot that mention Rome, the powers in the West, and they use Rome. That doesn't mean they mean Rome in Italy. We are the new Rome. We're the empire that was the Roman Empire, right? Mm-hmm. And again, I always have to caveat a little people because we didn't come from Rome. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that what Rome was at the time, we are today, right? We're the empire that has the greatest amount of
power in the world.
So is there a long-term goal to take us down?
Tough to answer that, because we talked about the last time, no empire has lasted forever. You don't have to take an empire down. It will eventually eat itself. The question is not does the empire survive? No empire has ever survived. The question is what does it become?
Let me just ask you one last question, because he called it 60 years ago. You referred to what a war with Iran would do to the United States. And I don't know that a lot of people in this country fully understand what Iran is as a nation state. It's not Afghanistan. What do you think the immediate and then longer term effects of a war with Iran would be on the United States?
Immediately, it would be very bloody. I have no doubt that we could probably defeat some of their air defense and go in there and have another shock and awe campaign. But again, like we saw how the shock and awe campaign in Iraq really didn't actually work in the long run. So I have no doubt that we'd have some immediate results that people would cheer about here in the United States. But Iran, Persia, has always been an empire. It's been around longer than any of the other players in the modern Middle East right now, and they are not going anywhere. And right now, Iran has a lot of internal problems. They have a lot of internal strife with the Ayatollah and that government that's only been in power since 1979. But again, if we start conducting strikes in Iran, everyone in Iran will rally around their leader and they will become even more revolutionary. And then we will have Iranian proxies throughout the entire region that will be conducting attacks just like we had in Jordan. And really in the long term, Tucker, the axis that has been built really since Putin invaded Russia and we decided that since Putin invaded Ukraine and we decided we were going to throw this massive sanctions package at them, China has come in as a major player and we are deeply compromised by China. They control a lot of our economy. They control global manufacturing. They're deeply embedded in Wall Street. And they've also made deals with the Iranians. They want access to Iranian petro, not to mention the fact that Biden killed off U.S. energy independence and now he's going after LNG. And the world's biggest LNG exporters are Iran, Russia, and Qatar. So this axis would become very powerful. If we get deeply involved and deeply entangled with Iran, we are playing right into China's hands because China would like nothing more than for us to be committing our military industrial base to a war in Eastern Europe, in Ukraine, and then to be committing our conventional military power, our blood and our treasure back in the Middle East. That will make the Pacific, our actual border, extremely vulnerable to Chinese aggression, or China will simply just watch us bleed out economically as we bleed out on the battlefield on these couple different theaters. It's absolute insanity. It's opening up Pandora's box. And again, for what gain to the American people?
I mean, I think that's the most reasonable, common sense based, factual assessment I've seen of this from anyone.
Economy is either going to collapse in the next 6 to 8 months or we're going to print trillions of dollars into our economy. I want to tell you exactly why. I'm not going to edit this. There's 3 F's: the foundation, the fuel, and the fire. I'm going to tell you who's holding the match and who's putting the fuel there, but let's talk about the foundation real quick. It's the 3 Ds: the debt, the deficit, and the dollar. The debt is growing, the deficit's growing, and the dollar is weakening. It had the worst opening 8 months of a year in the last 52 years. Dollar is weakening. What does this mean? It means that your dollar is worth less. All while a part of that foundation, we've had 5 years of consistent cumulative inflation that we believe the Fed is underreporting, and a job market that is waning. Job market specifically for college grads now showing that a 9% unemployment rate for those with a degree is normal, and a 49% underemployment rate for those with a degree under 30 is normal. And to finalize the foundation, we also know that everything is just generically more expensive, whether you're getting insurance, a car, or a home. Now the fuel. Now I made a video back in April on Liberation Day, actually the day after Liberation Day, having watched it, realizing I just watched the first domino fall in what could be the largest economic collapse we've ever seen. And the reason for that is countries, consumers, and companies. Countries got a slap in the face collectively all at the same time with this new thing that they had no clue was coming, or at least at this amount. Companies now have to pay a higher amount to import these goods, leaving them less liquidity to potentially create jobs, to potentially lower prices. They have to make as much money as they can because they're paying a higher price too. And the last, the consumer. The consumer is going to be paying more because it is going to get passed through the consumer. And in a world where inflation is high and wages are low, this is detrimental. Now clock this one in with me because this is the most important part. Since Liberation Day in April, our bond market auctions have been weak at best, especially long-term debt. And if you don't know what a bond auction is, it's how people buy bonds. If you don't know what a bond is how we package our debt for investors. And if you don't know what that means, just Google what is a bond. You'll find a great YouTube video. Bonds determine rates for you and I. You want a car? You want a credit card? You want a home? You want to finance a new leg because one fell off in a car crash? You're going to have to look at the residential rates or the retail rates to see what your interest is going to be. And the way that these banks figure out these retail rates is by going off of the bond market. When the bond market goes up, so do rates for everything we do. Now, if you've been watching the Federal Reserve meetings, don't worry, I have if you haven't. They have been talking about a Fed rate cut, and in September we finally got one. But did you know that the 30-year mortgage rate and car rates actually went up after this Fed rate cut? One of the biggest pieces of fuel is right here. The Fed cuts the rate, but 10, 20, and 30-year bonds go up. So how do they fix this problem? Well, if you ask a free market economist, the market will fix the problem. The market will fix it in time and allow for this topple over effect to happen because there's too much wealth at the top and it needs to be redistributed. But what we saw in 2008 was they invented this thing called quantitative easing to prevent that very thing from happening. See, in 2008, it wasn't just a housing market crisis. In fact, it was a bank failure. And a bank failure is what caused the market crash. You'd be blown away to know how Jeffrey Epstein's involved in all that, but that's for another video. The point of it being is when the market crashed, banks froze up. They weren't lending to one another. They also weren't lending to people like you and I, and we didn't want to get the loans. Why? Because nobody had jobs and rates were too high. See, the Fed started to lower their rate, but what happened to the bond market? The bond market actually went up. This is the only other time we've seen in history recently where that has happened. And the reason it happened is think of yourself as the bond investor. A bond is you getting paid a yield based off the likelihood that at the length of this yield, 10, 20, 30 years being the maturity date, that at the end of that 10, 20, or 30 years, our economy is still strong, our dollar is still strong, and we're still trucking along. So a lot of investors have a little bit of a, I don't know, about that very thought process. We're seeing that in the weakness in the bond auctions. This is a very nonpartisan way of looking at the status of our economy. So we've had the foundation. We know where we sit. There's a lot more we could go through. We've talked a little bit about the fuel. What's laying on the ground right now? We have people that can't afford anything, banks that are starting to get crunched, and a market that we can't get into because rates are simply too high. So what's going to happen next, I believe, are the three options for a fire. Bank failure, total collapse, or 2008, in March, Bear Stearns toppled. In September of 2008, Lehman Brothers toppled. This bank failure happened because they were not liquid enough. They went solvent. It means they didn't have enough money per the amount of money they owed every other direction to people like you and I and their investors. Our Federal Reserve and government stepped in to help Bear Stearns from falling, but couldn't do the same for Lehman Brothers, leading to the credit crisis we went through from 2008 to 2009. Right here, and I'll tell you what these yellows are here in a second, but right here is when we had our first bank crisis. Here's where we had our next. And you can see that right after that, this is the 30-year bond. Why did rates drop after our economy just showed some of its weakest potential signs ever? Two giant banks collapsed, but yet the bond investors were like, actually, we want less money back on our investment. We think you guys are doing great. Well, bank failure was also what happened in 1929 that caused the 30s Great Depression. Bank failure is often the trigger mechanism that lights the fire. Now, number two, an economic collapse. Could we get to the point where the dollar is so untrusted, becomes so weak, that we have to completely change systems, that we have to transition to a blockchain currency, a gold-backed, Bitcoin-backed currency, because our currency is no longer what people want? I think that could potentially happen. The reason being is because more and more people don't believe in our dollar, more and more people don't believe in our debt, and more people are watching our deficit gap grow, all while the wealth gap grows, and nothing is being done for the next generation to be able to do anything about it. Could be an economic collapse, but number three is most likely the fire that is going to be lit. Number three. Money printing. See, behind me, again, this is when we had our first couple bank crashes, and then the bonds went down. But what I didn't tell you the first time is that these yellow highlights are the 3 times that our Federal Reserve stepped in to buy bonds. Now, let me explain this. When the bond rate starts going high and they want to curtail the supply, what they do is they print money and go buy. That all rhymed. So what they did after these two bank failures, as we could see the 30-year started to go up, they began printing money, but not just to throw into the economy. I want to be very clear here. There's bank bailouts, which did happen, and that is congressional. It comes from our government. Our legislative branch and executive branch orchestrate those bank bailouts, and that very much did happen. Look at TARP. Look at Henry Paulson. That meeting's crazy. But this is only QE. Federal Reserve money printing. Now, this isn't just money printing. It's not going to the mint. It's digitally made new, and then they use that digitally new money to buy up bonds. But why do they specifically buy bonds? Think of supply and demand. If nobody wants our bonds because they don't trust our economy, what is the one way that we could get the bond to go down, the rate to go down? What would you do if you were selling a banana and you had 20 people that wanted to buy your one banana? You really have two options. Either sell more bananas, get more supply to feed the demand, or raise your price and let them fight for it. We saw that happen in the housing market not too recently. So right now, what the Federal Reserve was doing in 2008 was deciding to take bonds off the market so that less bonds were available, thus making them more valuable. Are you catching that? They printed trillions to buy up these 30-year bonds so that the yield would go down and the market would unfree. We see it didn't work perfectly because it came right back up. So what did they do just so recently after that? They printed money again, QE2. The rate went down, but shortly after that, right back up. It came down a bit, but then started to see back up. So what'd they do again? They printed money. We're not talking a few $100s or millions in money printing. They printed trillions of dollars of money. That is a million millions. You could buy every NFL, NBA, MLB, and soccer team multiple times with $1 trillion, and they printed multiple trillions. So the foundation's been set. The fuel is laying on the ground floor of the kitchen right now, and it's just a matter of who drops the match. Do we go into bank failure, and that triggers some actions like money printing or bailouts? Do we wait too long and actually suffer a full systemic economic collapse or detethering, allowing someone for like a China to step in as the world's #1? Or do we prolong the debt-fueled economy by printing more money to suppress the bonds, open up more credit, more debt for you and I, and allow billionaires to get even more wealthy? I made this prediction back in April, and I'm restating it right here. I said 12 months then, I'm saying 6 to 7 now. We are right on pace for something to happen, something to crack, and it's going to print millions into our economy. And what that means for you is if the dollar weakens, hold gold, hold Bitcoin. If it all falls apart, just have a good shack in the woods. And if we print just a ton of money and expand our monetary base, everything asset-wise will inflate. Hold stocks, hold housing, hold something that's going to grow with it. If there's anything historically factual that we can look at, is anytime our economy has looked a meltdown economically in the eyes, we usually print money and just have a melt up. This has been a long video. I believe this is going to happen. Stay prepared.
All right, guys. We have 52 days before everything falls apart. 52 days. 52 days, American dollar is going to go almost to nothing. Watch. Okay? Invest in black institutional companies. What I want you to do is go to this site, www.jointhecommunityreit.com, or look in my bio and you'll see the correct spelling. www.jointhecommunityreit.com. You need to involve your money. You need something growing for you while you're going through this. We have a REIT, which is essentially a bank that grows your money as we grow assets. We build hotels, hospitals, and resorts. All black owned. Go check out the site. God bless.
I've been working, I've been building on my peace, clearing out the noise, yeah, my glow's unleashed. Every step intentional, every move divine. If it don't align, then it's wasting my time. I'm in my lane, no room for distractions.